Whether you're married or single or poly or ace, or hanging out with swingers back at your place, listen to us as we give no fuck on Tinder and Bumble and plenty of yucks, trying and having no luck, because we all know dating kinda sucks. Sarah and Adam are two of a kind. He says stupid shit and she doesn't mind. They're not doing this show to make any buck. Life as a chicken whose feathers they pluck. Why does it work? Well, here is the crux. They both know dating kinda sucks. Dating kinda sucks.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Adam Heath Avitable.
This is the DKS Podcast, a podcast about love, sex, culture, and society. This week, we'll be talking about all the traits that make up the perfect woman. Enjoy the show.
And YouTube, if you're watching, now is the time to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single one of our posts or videos. And thank you for participating. We'd love to see some comments from you as well.
Social media is filled with tips and tricks for how you can improve your life. But it's also filled with projection by incels who manufacture standards that they couldn't live up to if they had 100 years. When it comes to the perfect woman, is it subjective, objective, or a combination of the two? And how do you as a woman figure out who you want to be?
But before we get into what makes a perfect woman by today's standards, we're going to catch up with you, give you the inside scoop on what's been going on in our personal lives, and answer a call from a listener. That's right. We still have the DKS Hotline available, and you can call and leave us voicemail right now at 407-519-0181. Do you have a relationship question, a dating issue, or even some type of interpersonal communication question you want to talk about? Give us a call or email us at datingkindasuckspodcast@gmail.com today. So Sarah, I know you were traveling, but now you're home again. So kind of what's been going on? We took a little break. We took a little hiatus, which I thought might last the whole summer, but no, it didn't. We're in the middle.
Same.
we needed to record. We're like, we can't do it. We have to record. So we enjoyed a couple of weeks off, but what have you been up to?
Let's see. So since coming home from Argentina, I've been home for probably a month and a half at this point. It's been very chill. I hosted a little summer party with my friends one Saturday in June. And that was nice to have all my friends over and get set up on the back porch. And that was the whole other thing, is doing a lot of outside cleanup with the yard. So Susie Homemaker. A yard, yeah. So Susie Homemaker over here just cooking and cleaning the backyard and hosting things. So I've been tapping into that. Obviously, I haven't given up my estate sale obsession either. So been doing that on the weekends. And recently, Roy's been gone for the past week, and he'll be gone this week too with a work trip. So I've just been hanging at home alone, just enjoying this big ass fucking house by myself. And honestly, I kind of get why he likes when I'm gone for a month. I'm not complaining. It's actually kind of nice.
Well, it is nice. And it's more than him just had a work trip. Before that, he actually went to the family cabin in Maine that he loves, but without you this is the first time since you guys have been together that he went without you, right?
That's not true. No,
when you first started dating, right? Or no?
No, because I think I go every other year is kind of my groove. So I went last year, and then the year before I didn't go, and then the first year I did. So it is what it is. I think because we're going to go to Paris next week, it was a lot of flying back and forth, especially flying from Argentina back home, that I really just wanted to, I wanted to save money because just the flight over to Maine was going to be around $700. So I wanted to save that money for Paris. And then also just the travel in general takes a toll on my body. So being able to just chill and relax and honestly enjoy the Seattle summer, which is why I pay so much fucking money to live here. That's what I wanted. So I'm not mad that I've been here this whole time and he's kind of been out and about.
Yeah. Yeah. It did get a little hot there though, right? Because did you get one of those little AC units like I suggested?
I didn't. No, I didn't want to spend the $150, but I will spend that on a sweater.
I know you'll buy a pair of shoes, but you won't buy a fucking air conditioning unit so that you can cool your place down when it gets hot.
For 2 fucking days, we had hot weather.
Worth it.
I had 2 fans. It was okay. You have to understand, my mother and stepfather did not use the air conditioning when I lived in Florida. And my room that I was in the back corner of the house that did not get a lot of ventilation. So they wouldn't bump the AC. It would only go up to 78. They would never bring it down. to anything.
What?
It was always at fucking 78 degrees. And on top of that, my room was hotter than 78 degrees. So I'm trying to straighten my hair, do my makeup or whatever, fucking sweating no matter what time of year in my bedroom trying to get ready. And it was awful. So I am somewhat, the humidity I'm not as used to anymore because I've been out of it, but I'm pretty used to being in a warmer house because I've spent 20 something years of my life in a hot fucking house.
Yeah.
So that's not the end of the world to me. It's funny enough, Roy was complaining before he left of how hot it was in the house and it was 74 degrees. And I was like, shut the fuck up. It's fine in here. He's like, it's so hot. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I am never coming to stay with you. That sounds miserable. I did my family. I think my dad was really strict about it, but we had 2 thermostats. So because the house was originally one part and they built a whole second wing to it. And so he checked that thermostat a lot, but the one on my side of the house, I would go and I would turn it down all the time, and then he would just like yell at everybody. But because I was upstairs and it got hot. And like it's been nice about this little apartment because it is, it's only what 900 square feet or something like that. It's not huge. I've got my AC set at 67 and have not touched it since I think the winter. Like it was set to 67 for the heat and set to, and then once it started getting cool enough, and it's just great. Like it's cold. The only time it's like an issue is when I get out of the pool and I walk in here and then it's like fucking frigid,
It's too cold.
It's too cold. But otherwise I love it. It's been great because it's been fucking 100 degrees here.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So yeah, so you've been enjoying Seattle. You've been you're getting ready to leave, which obviously, just so listeners know, we're not gonna have an episode for probably another month.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah, this is our back from break. Ha, just a lie. We'll be gone again.
Just gone again because you leave for Paris next week.
Yeah.
And so I think we're just coming in just real quick, and then we'll be back in August with the next episode. But
yeah, exactly.
That's exciting though. Are you excited about Paris?
No.
Yeah, of course not. I should have, as I asked the question, I was like, of course you're not. You haven't even started thinking really about it yet. But
I think this weekend I'll start thinking about it when I have to start packing, but it's not going to hit me until Roy gets home and we leave a week from tomorrow. So really it's still the nitty gritty of some of the planning things. And I think why I'm annoyed right now, I'm so sorry, Mom. I keep bringing you up in this episode and she's going to be so mad if she's listening, but she has been driving me insane because we use this app. Now I'm getting onto my travel side of my brain right now. Whenever I travel with a group of people, we use this app called Splitwise. And especially when you're traveling in other countries in a bigger group, restaurants do not split the checks. A lot of places won't split the checks. So someone's got to pick up the one check, or you're at the table trying to exchange money between everyone. And it's a hot damn mess. I don't know if you've been in that situation before, but it's low-key embarrassing and takes a lot of time.
Drive up by myself.
Okay, well, yeah, you go by yourself. But if you're in a big group, it's just a huge hassle. So instead of that, you use this app called Splitwise, and I'll pick up the check one time, but I add in everybody's expenses of what they ordered or whatever. And then the next time someone else picks up the check. So at the end of the day, it all kind of evens out and you really only you owe someone money for the excess amount. Right. Well, my mother doesn't like downloading new applications on her phone because she's afraid of the internet. And she's not even 60. She's just afraid of the internet.
I have to pause you right here before we continue to paint a picture of Sarah in the year 2000, like let's say 18, who couldn't download new apps to her phone because her phone was full.
Sure, but my phone's not full now. And
I know. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. Cloud, so I'm better. I was also broke, so I couldn't afford the extra $10 a month to increase my gigabytes or whatever. So give me some grace.
I'm just saying. Like so like let's be a little relaxed on your mom because your phone was too fucking full to have another app. All right, so it's all right, but.
She's not wanting to download a couple of apps that she's going to need around Paris. So that's been stressing me out this week, just getting her on board. And we're trying to settle everybody's expenses because we purchased like tickets to the Louvre, tickets to this and that already. And I kind of want to clear out those expenses and have everyone pay each other back before the trip, because I know we're going to have a bunch of restaurant charges once we get over there. So that's my brain of trying to settle some things out before we get on the flight.
That does sound hectic.
Yeah. And it'd be different if it was just me, Roy, and one other person, but it's 5 of us in total, which just adds the other complexity of there's 2 couples and my mom. And so of course, Roy and I are trying to figure out what we're going to do, just the two of us. But then it low key feels like, well, someone's got to babysit mom, so she's not alone. So my sister and I have joked of, oh, we're going to take turns babysitting mom when, the other couple wants to go out and do something that the rest of the group doesn't want to. And I think that's just going to be the dynamic of it. It'll definitely be an interesting situation because I haven't traveled with family like this in a very, very long time. I mean, I haven't been an adult traveling like this. I've traveled with my sister and her boyfriend before when we went to Mexico City, but adding my mom into the loop is just going to add a different dynamic. So that'll be interesting. But I'm a little stressed about that. And then I'm just stressed about making sure everything's good to go before we get over there. Because I know once we're over there and things aren't planned, it's just going to be fuckery upon fuckery. And I'm trying to avoid that. So that's why I'm not excited right now. I'll be excited once I get on the plane and I'm in the lounge and I have a fucking drink in hand, I think is when I'll be excited.
Yeah, I can see that. And like, I know it's going to be a cool trip. You're going to have lots of really cool experiences doing it. I also know there's going to be a couple times that I might even get a call from France
for sure
from you.
For sure.
What I would say, the one piece of advice that I would give to you is that when you're there and things are getting like whatever your mom's saying about, trying to split it and she doesn't want, but it gets frustrating, just fucking pay it and worry about it later. Like that's not the time to worry. Like, honestly, like when you start like stressing, you just fucking pay it. You guys can figure it out later. There's plenty of time after you're home to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like getting into the little petty arguments there is going to be more stressful for you than anyone else. And I think it'll drive you crazy. So you're better off sometimes just being being the bigger person and just being like, I got it. Don't worry about it. I'll file it away later. You have your records. You'll be able to check through later and say, here's the amounts.
Yeah.
So
I think that is what's stressing me out because I'm thinking in my mind, Roy will pick up a meal, then my sister will pick up a meal, then my mom. And my mom was already like, I don't have the money to pick up a meal. And I'm like, what do you mean? Right. So then that's where the arguments have had. I'm like, that's just the system. She's like, well, I don't have all the money. I was like, it all evens out. And then we start spiraling into an argument. And I'm like, oh, so you're right. Roy always tells me, and sorry, mom, Roy always tells me, he's like, you should be nicer to your mother. My mom even tells me that. I'm like, I don't think I'm being mean. I'm just being really stern. And like, this is how we're doing it. The end.
Right.
But she's a little bit more sensitive when it comes to that. And also she's freaking out a lot that she's not going to be safe or she's going to get lost. And I was telling her, I was like, Mom, both of your daughters have traveled a lot. My sister used to do a lot of international traveling in college and then like right after college, even still now. And then of course myself. So I think if she's going on a big trip like this, I think she's in good company that things will be fine. And I keep reminding her that, but I think because there's no one her age who's kind of leading it and it's the younger people, she's a little worried, but I'm not concerned at all.
Have you turned on Find My Friends or put on her location?
I need to do that.
Make sure you do that with her too, because that way you can find her. If she gets lost, you'll be able to find her, especially with the Olympics being there with so many people. Yeah. Might not be a bad idea too, to be able to figure out where she is in the crowd. Are you guys doing like an international plan for your phones?
Planning on it, yeah.
Yeah.
At first I was thinking, I'll just connect to Wi-Fi whenever. I was like, that's going to be a fucking shit show, especially if I'm going to need to pull up a ticket really quickly and then connect to internet and then there's a line or whatever. I just think that's going to be a huge hassle. So I'm just going to pay the extra, $100 to have an international plan when I'm there and just not worry about it.
I think, it's definitely worth it, especially with the Olympic crowds. The size of those crowds means that the Wi-Fi will probably not be reliable as well. So
yeah, agreed.
But, this will be an interesting story to hear when you get back to. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, as long as she was talking about, what if my purse gets slashed by a pickpocketer? Someone was telling me I need chicken wire in my bag. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, you don't. You'll be fine. If someone takes a knife to you, I think we have bigger problems than just pickpocketing. Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, maybe you have to. Yes, in some areas you have to be careful about things like that, but that's also why you're just vigilant about what you do. You make sure you don't
wear flashy jewelry. Wear all
long
your
handle purses. You don't wear like the ones that like drape. You don't the big long ones. You have the ones that are close, right?
Right. Yeah. You wear a crossbody bag. You don't wear flashy jewelry. I mean, I've had friends get robbed in Brazil and other countries because they were wearing Apple Watches and fancy things, and it was just like ripped right off of them as they were talking to whoever the person was. They were easily pickpocketed because their attention was towards something else, and they were able to just like take it off their wrist. So don't wear that shit. I'm going to wear my $8 ring that I don't care if anything happens. You know what I mean? I'll wear jewelry, but nothing that I'm going to be heartbroken if something happens to it.
Yeah. Well, this like I said, will be an interesting experience.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
Call you.
And I was gonna pretend like I actually watch this show, and I was gonna be like, hey, didn't I see you on Good Morning America the other day?
Yeah, I know you
But,
didn't. You only know because you encouraged me to get on Good Morning America because I wasn't going to do it. Yeah.
If listeners were paying attention, a couple days ago, probably Friday or Thursday?
Yeah, it was like Wednesday, Thursday of last week. Yeah.
Well, Wednesday of last week. So yeah, they on Good Morning America, they did a segment that you were on screen talking head for a minute there.
A whole 10 seconds, not even a minute, 10 seconds. But my family was very proud. Honestly, somebody just reached out to me through Instagram DMs. He had kind of a sketch profile and he even admitted that he had a sketch profile because I was like, is this legit? And I was sending it to you. I had posted it to a couple of friends and everyone was like, yeah, this is kind of not legit. And you're like, maybe it is. What's the worst that could happen? They're not asking for your social security number, so you should be fine.
Right.
So I gave them permission to use my TikToks when I was in Alaska. And then it turned into, well, will you hop on a Zoom with our producer and answer a couple of questions? And those questions could be put into our reel for tomorrow morning's newscast. And I was like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. I didn't know the questions going in at all. So I wasn't exactly sure the angle, except for I knew they were going to talk about Alaskan cruising and over tourism in that area. So they asked me, probably 10 questions and they used 2 of the answers that I gave, which was totally cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
that's cool.
It was cool, but like now that it happened, I'm like,
if you're watching this on YouTube, right now is where I'm going to actually play that video. So this is a good reason if you're listening to this and not watching it, to maybe go check out the YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video right now.
With its breathtaking views and captivating landscape, Alaska has turned into a tourist hotspot for fans of cruises.
Here's everything I did on a 7-night cruise to Alaska. Our third stop was Juneau, which is the capital of Alaska.
Record crowds sailing to spots like Juneau to see attractions like the Mendenhall Glacier, but some Juneau residents have had enough.
I personally came to the realization that Alaska was being sold as a friendly place and that my friendliness was a commodity for the cruise lines.
The city considering banning large cruise ships on Saturdays to help curb the crush of post-pandemic crowds.
The idea is just one day every week to just take a pause, to have our community back.
A record 1.6 million cruise passengers visiting Juneau in 2023. Sarah went on a cruise this May that stopped in Juneau.
It was beautiful to go and see a glacier. It was my first one.
Juneau, just one of the places facing challenges of over-tourism.
I'm not against limiting the amount of cruise ships. I think it would make it nicer for the locals who live there year round.
We have been setting new travel records every month so far in 2024, and there's no reason to think that's going to stop.
Travelers posting to social media about growing crowds. In the U.S., Mount Rainier now among the national parks implementing timed entry reservations. In Europe, cities like Venice and Barcelona adding fees for tourists. This weekend in Barcelona, locals using water guns to spray visitors. Thousands in the streets taking a stand against tourism, which they say results in a higher cost of living for residents. Experts believe as more destinations see a surge in visitors, local officials may implement restrictions to manage crowds.
I'm all in favor of steps taken to try to make sure you're managing that properly and respecting the local environment and everything.
Well, lovely video.
Yeah. I had to share it.
So that's my claim to fame now. I was on Good Morning America for a whole 10 seconds talking about travel, but I think it was cool. It was a cool experience. It also reminded me a lot of when I was interviewing to be on a reality TV show a couple of years back, just the interview process of all of that. And then it had me thinking, wow, I could have been on a reality show, but I'm not.
I know.
That
would have been such a crazy thing if that had happened, but
so
probably for the best that it didn't.
Honestly, yeah, I was so worried, and Adam knows this, but I was so worried that they were going to use my answers to twist me into this terrible person on air, because that's how my mind was when I was doing all these reality shows. They were typecasting me for something. I'm like, well, what if I say this and they make a cut and make me seem like a bad person for however I answered it? And Adam's like, it's the news. They're not trying to do that.
Yeah,
They're trying to look for a solid answer. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like it's the news. It's not like some random person like on the street like trying to get laughs for Jimmy Kimmel or something like that. Like
Right.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you did that. That's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll just start referring to you for all their travel influence needs.
I mean, hey, that'd be cool, but I don't think that's going to happen. Who knows?
Hey,
I
just
mean,
make
with
sure
the
to think-
Paris Olympics,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like,
with the Paris Olympics, if some shit goes down and I'm there, I'm
Yeah.
your correspondent on the ground who's outside of GMA because I know they're going to have their people there,
yeah, of course.
obviously, but you never know.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
definitely keep recording all your stuff there. Well, that's great. It's been busy for you.
It's been busy for you too, Mr. I have a green beard.
I do. I have a very green beard right now. It is like emerald green, I would say. And I have green fingernails and toenails.
Why is that?
And I'm still finding pieces of green body glitter when even after showering for several days.
Did you celebrate St. Patrick's Day again?
Yeah, you'd
Why
think.
would you be...
No, I decided I was an all-star and I wanted to be an all-star, and I also am a layered human being with lots of layers like an onion. And so they had, it's a traveling show, a Shrek rave, and it was here last Friday at this place called Kane's Ballroom, which is a really cool venue, very for my first time being there. And I had heard about this a couple months ago, and I had told kind of my local group of friends, people that I hang out with here, I was like, we need to do this. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. We're going to dress up. And you have to dress up, and you don't have to, but like, it's strongly encouraged that you come in some type of, costume, which I don't, I generally don't like doing. But I was like,
I know, it's just surprising that you're like, yeah, let's go to the rave, the Shrek rave, and dress up.
I was like, I'm in a new place. Let me try something new that I would never otherwise do. And I also talked to my best friend, Lisa, who people know came out in December or January of this year. And I told her about it. She's like, oh, I'm coming out for that. So she flew out on Thursday, and then a big group of us, I think like 8 of us, all went to the Shrek rave, which was fucking insane. Like it was
good. Yeah. Not
it was
lame.
good. It was not lame. It was very fun. It was lots of dancing, lots of people some in lame costumes, some in pretty elaborate costumes. Of course I had Shrek, so I had but in addition to the green beard, I had the little ears, like on a headband. I had green sunglasses, and then I had a green mesh shirt, which I felt like went well with the rave. Fair, and then I just wore like cargo shorts because he's kind of just wearing like peasant pants, right, and sandals. And then Lisa went as the mirror, which I really like. She just basically took a white face mask. You're playing like a white mask that you'd use and attached it to a mirror. So it looked just kind of like the mirror, and then just wore it around her neck with a chain, and then wore all black. And it was pretty perfect for it. And then we had a couple Fionas that went with us. One woman I felt so bad.
Fiona or
Fiona. Oh yeah, no, as Shrek Fiona, basically, with like not green, any green color, but like green hair and stuff like that. No green hair, no red hair. You know what?
Red hair. Yeah.
Maybe I said they were Shrek Fiona, but they could have just been any Fiona now that I think about it, because I don't think they had green on them. So I think they were just Fionas.
Yeah.
And then I felt bad for one woman who was she went as the gingerbread man, which I thought she was going to do like a little bit of face makeup and then like buttons on her shirt. But she actually had a gingerbread man onesie, which was cute.
Oh.
It was adorable, except it was also 100 fucking degrees out. Yes.
Yeah. Why would you do that?
So I think she lasted about probably half an hour at the rave wearing it before she had an outfit, underneath it basically that she could just wear that instead. But yeah, saw lots of really cool costumes. And
what were the lame costumes, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I thought they weren't really lame per se, but like the 3 blind mice were just easy. So just people wearing black sunglasses with white t-shirts and canes, and so it was
low
like
effort.
Lots of groups of 3 people that just wandering around like that. And then some people that just had like a Shrek t-shirt on or something like that, like they those,
that's not really a costume at that point.
Not really a costume. But and so the main reason I actually dressed up was because our friend Kelsey, who was on here 2 years ago as a guest when she thought she was the executive assistant for Larry Flint. She went to it, and because she and I were chatting, and in Los Angeles, and I was telling her, she goes, "Yeah, I didn't dress up, and I really wished I had. Like that really felt to make a big difference." So I definitely went and did that, and I was so sore the next day. Like I'll tell you just from I did dance.
Dancing?
I danced some.
What does dancing look like for you?
Well, it's a rave, so you're not really dancing too much. You know what I mean?
Like, are you just pumping your fist,
pumping and moving up, and then I got convinced to kind of drop it quite a few times.
Drop it.
You know what I'm?
Where?
Yes, I've told you. You drop it down and then dance down on your knees. You know what I mean? Like not on your knees, but like as you're squatting and dancing.
Are you doing a death drop?
I don't know what it's called. It's when you drop down and then pop back up again, and like it's like, is it?
Could you demonstrate right now?
I'm not going to demonstrate right now. Only because I'm still so sore that I think I might not be able to get back up again. I would drop down and then just fall over, and then I'd have to crawl to my chair. So yeah,
it's a straight drop down to your knees.
Yeah, you think about like when like there's like kind of hip hop playing, and you kind of drop, and then you kind of making your booty pop a little bit when you drop down.
Are you like? Okay, but you're like, YouTube's getting a show right now.
Oh my God, you're doing the fucking Tina Belcher right now from
Bob's
Burgers.
Okay, well, I'm trying to figure out how high the camera is and like if my head's cut off or whatever. So are you like actually shaking your ass and then you drop your knees down?
You just kind of drop down and then shake and then down. When you're down, you're not on your knees. You're like squatting.
You're like
yes,
down
like
here.
that. Yes, yeah.
So you're still okay. So you're still on like the balls of your feet. Just
yes. Basically doing that.
Do you like but do you shake your ass when you come?
Yeah, of course. Then you shake your butt and then.
Of course.
Of course.
You do. Okay.
Yes. So
calling me fucking Tina Belcher.
Well, the first move you did was the.
Okay, well, I was trying to mimic.
I was
trying to figure out what the fuck you were doing.
Hopefully now the audience has some idea from that description. But what is that called? Is there a name for that then that you would call it?
It's not a formal dance move. I don't know.
Like it's hot. Pop and drop. I don't know. I'm sure there's something.
You're on the balls of your feet, crouched down, and then you
popping.
Sure, and then you butt pop up.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
You push your hips back and shake your ass all the way up.
I think that I didn't do much of that part.
I'd pay money honestly to see that. Just to see you actually from the ground shaking your ass all the way up.
Well, it doesn't happen very fast. I go down and up pretty quickly because I know I don't have much time. But it's still just do that a few times. Just but I did it enough that I was sore. Yeah. And
fair enough.
Maybe at some point if I feel luckily nobody's ever gotten video of this because it's happened multiple times now, because now my friends are like, oh my God, you got to see Adam do this. And so because nobody's expecting me, I'm 6 foot 360-pound guy who's dropping down to the ground and popping back up again. Like nobody's figuring that I can do that. It's not really what you'd expect. So
okay, so now your friends just need to record you anytime
apparently I'm just glad that they have
a dance.
They're usually drunk, so we're usually all drunk, so nobody thinks to get their phone out, and it only takes it's only a matter of 15 seconds, so I'm not giving anybody time to record it either. So
you said you were slow on the way up, but okay,
a little slow, but yeah, if it's too slow, then I'm not getting up. That's the problem. So but it was overall it was a blast. It was nice having Lisa here. We went out and saw a bunch of other bars and stuff like that, and went drinking, and overall a really, really solid weekend that I'm still kind of recovering from. My voice is still a little rough from just I think just talking and everything through the noise,
yelling, but
yes, yelling, and of course a couple of there's still bars here that have smoking. That ballroom doesn't, the rave didn't, but there's a lot of bars in Tulsa that still have smoking, so we went to a bunch of those on Sunday, from like 3 until
3.
Yeah, it was something like that. Like I feel like I think we got home at like 1:30 or 2, maybe. Yeah.
So what else besides your dance moves and drinking? What dating life? What's new with that?
I've actually been going on some dates since we kind of took a break, and I hadn't really talked much about it, but I had ended up getting some matches and communicating with people. I've been out on a few dates with a few different people. At one point, there were getting to be too many, and it was not on purpose. And I was kind of hearkening back to the original days of the podcast when I was talking about the fact when I had the spreadsheet of 14 different names on it. It did not reach that level, but there was at one point, I think, 8 people that I had like matched with and were having good conversations and maybe had gone out with as well. Maybe once, once or twice was trying to figure out, and then other people are trying to plan dates. A lot of those have gone by the wayside. So
just not responding back type of thing, or planning
either
the
not
next
responding,
date?
or we didn't plan we didn't plan the next date. I went on a date with one person. It went really well. The first date was great. Everything was, I think we got along really well. And then I was showing her Bumble profile to my group of friends, and one of them said, "Oh my God, I know her. And she is one of the most evil human beings in my life that I've ever had, that I've ever experienced, and one of the most toxic people," and told me this just whole story about her. And I was like, okay, well, I don't think I'm gonna like necessarily, I'm waiting to hear back from her anyways, but I'm not gonna
But she
actively pursue her
really?
anyways. And so yeah, I haven't actively pursued her because I was like, I'm not going to, because it just, first of all, if this friend is here too, and I'm like, it just feels awkward. And I was curious. I wanted to go out with her to kind of like be like, so tell me, like, kind of,
I know
in your own
so-and-so.
words.
What
Yeah,
happened? Yeah.
tell me in your own words. But since she kind of stopped, like either didn't respond or just kind of, I don't know, it's ghosting. I think we're still even actually matched on Bumble.
Just a mutual ghost.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. I'm gonna leave it be.
Yeah.
And then I've been out with somebody that we got along really well. We went out, had one date, and then we did a photo shoot in the middle of a junkyard. That was a lot of fun. An abandoned junkyard for a second date. By the way, in dating advice world, don't do that.
No fucking shit. Why are you doing that?
Because I'm me. I don't listen to my own advice. What are you talking about?
And that enables everyone else not to listen to their own advice or your advice.
But that's been fun, and we've been out a couple more times. Just then with schedules and things, it's been hard to like kind of coordinate everything. And then there's somebody else that I haven't actually been out with. We've just been chatting for like, I want to say like a month. It's just schedules have become an issue. And then there's the third one. So I'd say there's 3 right now that I'm like actively communicating with.
Okay,
three
so
women.
Option number 1.
What's
going on with who's number 1? And
well, I'm not trying to rank them. I'm not. I don't want to.
Well, I'm trying to you can't have 3 forever. Let's be real.
No, I know, but right now, like we're still at that kind of really early stage. They all seem very interesting, and I enjoy talking to all of them. There's one that I can't figure out, and that's the third one. it's interesting. And I can't figure out because there's absolutely no way on paper that we should be getting along. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
How so?
She is all about like health and wellness. She does not own a television. She gets up at like 6 a.m. and does a full ice bath every morning to kind of shock herself into like to get her dopamine levels up, and does these like I can't remember the name of them, but some type of eye drops that she said are very painful, but they like activate like your they activate something, and so it's her morning routine.
What in the Scientology?
No, not even like it's science. Like she's like, well, this, it's actual science. But she doesn't drink. She doesn't really do anything with like gluten or sugar. She doesn't drink caffeine. And she really doesn't stay out past like 9 o'clock at night. Like she's very
before my bedtime.
I know, right around yours. I mean, I think she says she likes to
a little earlier,
kind of
but
be
yeah,
home and starting to get ready for bed around 9. Like it's kind of her goal is to So how the fuck are we actually getting along is the first question, but we've been out multiple times and it's gone well every time.
Let's talk about the differences or the things that you called out. Not having a TV, not the biggest issue in the world. She might just watch stuff on her laptop. That's not it. That's not any. Yeah. So you're still friends with me and I don't watch things.
I know, but thank God you're getting better. Like finally, Roy's been a positive influence in your life.
Okay, but it's not the end of the world. I didn't have a TV when I was in Nashville either. So that's not an issue to me at all. And then the 6 a.m. ice bath thing, that's just that skews in the mind of gym and fitness. And I know people that do that. That's not something that I would particularly do, but like to each their own. I don't see how that's that wouldn't, it's not like she's asking if you want to do that with her. That's her own personal, morning routine or whatever. And that's fine. What else? The no sugar, sure, fine. The no alcohol is what gets me more than anything, honestly, because when we talk and you're like, oh, I'm doing this later tonight, it always involves some kind of alcoholic beverage, which isn't an issue.
Yeah.
But
if
you
I
don't
go out
want to.
If I go to socialize, I'm going to go out and have a drink. Basically.
Yeah, but you don't want to put her in that situation every time when maybe you want to go out to a bar and that's not the environment she would prefer to be in. So I could see that being an issue.
Luckily, she doesn't mind hanging on bars. She'll drink mocktails, which I know some of those include sugar, but like she'll drink mocktails and things like that when she's out. So like she's okay with that. It's not because of like AA or anything like that she doesn't drink alcohol.
Even if it was like that's fine. What the other so it's the alcohol and the going to bed early thing that get me, because from the drinking you'll be like, yeah, I'm going to a comedy club and I'm probably gonna get home, it ends around 10, and then I talk to you the next morning, you're like, well, I just had to continue the night and I didn't get home till 2 a.m, and that is, it's fun. Like that's your journey. That's something you enjoy doing, and I think that's great. But with her needing to be Cinderella at 9 o'clock could be problematic, especially early on dating too, where 9 o'clock is rather early to figure out things to do with someone, where a lot of activities really start around 7:30, 8 o'clock. So then you're only really getting an hour and a half with somebody for a date. That's an issue.
Yes. And that's kind of been the interesting thing. So because like, I mean, the Shrek ride, for example, the doors opened at 9.
Right.
Like that's when the doors opened. And so, yeah, it's so late night. And so our first date was just dinner, and it was just an early dinner, like
dinner. What? Because you couldn't do you wouldn't do bar because that wouldn't make. God, I was like, you're breaking that rule too.
Breaking the first. I know. We went and had dinner. And had dinner at I think it was like, it's at, I want to say like 6. I think we met, and then we were there till about 8, and then 8:30, and it was had a great time. And we talked about karaoke. She likes karaoke, and she's like, oh, I'm willing to like stay out a little bit later if we do karaoke and stuff like that. So we went to a bar for karaoke for our second date, and I think they started karaoke at like 8:30. So
how late did she end up staying out?
About 10? Like 9:45, almost 10, and then it was like, okay, it's, I'm gonna go. I mean, and then I was like, okay, and then I stayed, and I was out till 2. Probably till 2, yeah, or close to that.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
it's karaoke.
Yeah, and they didn't really do much in the way of mocktails, unfortunately. So she was just kind of sitting there drinking water.
That sucks,
because it's not really a mocktail type bar. That's the other issue. Not all bars are like that. And then our third date, I suggested a pool day because I thought. 2 reasons, and one was just be like, that would be a nice way for us just to hang out and chat, because I really enjoy like speaking, like we have great conversations, and I enjoy talking to her, and I enjoy like we get along really well. So I was like, a pool day would be good. I can work whatever hours, and that's fine. And that's also something that doesn't end immediately. Like it's like, you can come over for the afternoon, and then it also allows you to be like, and let's see how things go. Like maybe we'll grab some dinner afterward or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And she said, okay, yeah, I can do that. I can do like Monday, like maybe like 2 to 4 or so, or like I can do Tuesday from 1:15 to 3:15.
15. What kind of time frame is that?
Yeah, I was like, that's so strict of a timeline. Like, so when she actually came over, I was like, do you do anything without intention? Like, do you like in your life? And she's like, no, everything I do is fully intention. And I was like, yeah, that's just like, that's not me. Like this is my plan for the day. Whatever we end up doing, whatever happens afterwards, if something happens, great. Like if I decide to go out after you leave or whatever, great. But I was like, I plan one thing a day, like one activity a day is all that I can handle planning. And like to think you have like it planned that at 1:15 you are free, and that you have something else going on at 3:15. that you have to be somewhere else, and that you would be, after hanging out in the sun in the pool for 2 hours, that you would want to go do. Because if I planned something at 3:15, I would be canceling that thing at 3:15 after hanging out in a pool for a couple hours.
Right.
So yeah, so that was we had a great day hanging out in the pool. It was really fun.
It's not like the worst thing in the world, because I'm thinking, the differences between Roy and I'm more scheduled than he is, but not to that degree. So I'm trying to give a little bit of grace in that people who are a little bit opposite can still work out, but there is a level or a threshold of this is reasonable for both of us.
Well, yeah, and I also think it's one of those things that I think a little non-intention scheduling is nice, because we haven't had any intimacy. There's been no intimacy. I mean, we've
Kissed?
kissed, yeah, we've
Okay.
kissed a couple times, and that's really it. And so there feels like there's chemistry there, but we have no real idea of that. And she's not a prude or anything either. The funny thing is, she came to the pool and very, very confident, which I admire. But then also her hat, she wore a hat that said "Daddy" on it, which I thought was hilarious. Like, yeah, that's the thing, is like we get along in that. We get along in those, like, in ways that are kind of like, she's got a good sense of humor and can joke about things too. So yeah, it's interesting. But we started talking and we got into a really good conversation. And someone, she was like, I should check my clock, and then she realized it was 4:20 or 4:25 or something like that. And she's like, oh, I gotta go. Like I have actual plans to meet somebody. Like I have a friend that's supposed to be in town, blah blah blah. And so like she basically ran out the door as soon as she could. And that, while understandable, because she did have this schedule, it was just like, maybe, like, do you have to pack your schedule so full? Like what is it about having downtime that's like, so maybe like, is it terrifying? Is it like a scary thing of having downtime?
Doesn't want to be bored.
Yeah, or is this idea of what would you do if you have this like downtime? Are you afraid that you don't like being alone with like
Your thoughts?
space, or something? I don't know. I really don't know. But it's interesting. So
Have you talked to her about what
No.
have you guys talked about as far as progressing this relationship and all of that?
We haven't. That's the funny thing. We've talked about all types of things. We've talked about all types of things related to like our families and and life and how we approach things and all of that stuff. And I think we haven't actually talked about she and I and where this. Every time I'm like, we should discuss that, we just don't. Like we had.
Yeah. It is still early. You've been on
yeah.
3 dates, so fair.
Yeah, so we had a fourth one when we did a brunch. And and the thing is, she always appreciates like my communication. She's very clear in her communication too, which I appreciate. And like I had said something like, what's your schedule like for the next week? And she was like, well, that depends on what you want to do. Like I have a variety of times, whatever. But I was like, well, it's hard for me to kind of plan something not knowing when you're available, and so we planned she said, I like early morning Sundays, they're always nice, and so I planned a brunch.
You're like, when I'm hungover.
Well, yeah. Well, brunch, luckily the place doesn't even open till 9. I was like, is that earlier? Maybe 10. I was like, is that early enough? Hopefully it's early enough. But we met for brunch, and brunch was great. We had a great conversation, and I was going to talk to her about that, but we ended up talking about all types of other things. And then and then it was kind of like the time was up and she had other things to go do.
Dang, that sucks though, because in other situations, when you would do something like that, it turns into a whole day thing where you see what happens. Yeah.
And so I think that's the thing, is that there's not a feeling of any type of spontaneity, and that is something that I'm not
You're looking
but also,
for.
I can't see how any type of relationship can proceed, because it's like, if you're this busy, unless your partner lives with you, so you see them every morning, you're like, unless that, which isn't happening, obviously. Unless that, when do you see them? You see them for 2-hour blocks, like every time, and if they don't go to bed when you go to bed, then like when, like, when is there time for intimacy? That's another thing. I was like, I feel like, should the next date be like, I don't know, can I cook you dinner from 5 to 6:30, and then from 6:30 to 8, then
scheduled intercourse.
We scheduled maybe second base. I don't know what the protocol is for that, and it's something that's worthy.
Well, yeah, because you'll never have the time. Oh, well, then it makes me ask, like, is she really that busy all the time? Like,
and
with that many friends,
does she want a relationship? And
yeah, that's another good question.
But she does seem like she does. So we're on Instagram, and so it does seem like she does want a relationship. The way she talks about it, the stuff she posts is very relationship like focused, which is fine. But yeah, so we do have another date scheduled. But the only time available is going to be, we're recording this on Tuesday, is next Tuesday.
Oh my God.
Because like I know like I'm not gonna do something Friday night with her or something like that, because like that's late night, like that's, I don't want to try to
Ugh.
suggest it.
Yeah.
And everything. So we're going to there's a place that does tabletop games. It's like a game bar, where you can go and they have food and drink, and they have a bunch of games you can play. And I suggested to her, she goes, yeah, Tuesday's fine. I said, well, they open at 5. Do you want to say like 5:30 to 6? She goes, I just remembered I have something, like a class at 8 that night. So 6 would be perfect.
Adam, what the fuck? That annoys me actually, because
So, well, she didn't
what the-
cancel. I'm trying to look at it from a positive standpoint, that she didn't say I have a class at 8, so no, I can't. She said, yeah, I'll go at 6.
Sure, but then you feel cheated. It goes back to the same thing though. If the date's still going well after 2 hours, you can't continue
right.
it because Cinderella's gotta go, gotta do something else. It's so jam-packed.
It's interesting. And like the thing is, if the conversations during our dates weren't so good,
Yeah.
I would be done. But they've been really good. And so like that's what I can't figure out. I really can't figure out. Like,
Well, you
yeah.
need to have the conversation
I
of
know,
what
I
are
do,
we
yeah.
what are we you've had 4 dates at this point. So it's not
And
like
I've
the
had 4
first or
dates, which
second
means I've
date.
seen her for a total of 8 hours.
Fair. Yeah. Oh gosh. It just seems
Where I've
very
had dates that started at, like I had that when I went to that date here that we met out for drinks at like 3:00, and then we
Yeah.
were out till midnight. Like, so it was like a 9-hour date in one date. And like that was cool too. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard. And also because like sometimes I like to go to a bar, not because I need to drink, because it's just a fun place to go and sit and talk and people watch and things like that. And yeah. So it's interesting.
I'm a little frustrated for you, honestly. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be mean to her because I'm
Right.
sure she's probably going to listen and she thinks
may.
I'm
Yeah,
being
I
a
don't
type
know.
of way.
She knows
But
she knows
it's
the
a-
podcast exists.
it's a little difficult, like you said, to just date anybody with those parameters. And then it also makes me a little sad for you, just knowing that in the date, when you're dating someone new, you want to, the intake of seeing that person from the start is a fuck ton. You'll see them one week and then you'll see them 2 days later, and then you'll see them like the next week, and then you'll see them 2 days after that. And it feels like it's been a short amount of time. And then also 1 week for 2 hours, the next week for 2 hours. It's a really weird cadence where you're microdosing getting to know her.
You know what it's
I
like?
don't know.
It's like kind of an Uber of dating, where you're just like you're essentially just renting someone's time for 2 hours, where you get to hang out and have like cool conversations, and then you're like, all right, cool, I'll check. It's like a therapy appointment kind of, but it's the same way, like
I'll check in next week.
check
Yeah.
in next week, and we'll see what our schedules line up. But
Do you talk much during the week? Sorry.
So in the beginning she was moving, and she said I might not be too responsive at first, and so I'm happy like to reply when I can, but just so I'll be busy. And so every now and then, in the very beginning, she was like, you like every other day is fine. Like I don't want you to feel obligated. And then since then we've kind of communicated back and forth a little bit, nothing too much. She mentioned last time that she realized she hadn't been as responsive as she'd like to be, so she's gonna try to be more responsive as far as replying. So I'll just, I sent her pictures like during the Shrek rave and stuff like that, or not during, earlier. But and then she replied back, and I love those, and stuff like that. So she's, she is responsive, and we do have some small conversations, but nothing to the level
Of getting to know her on another level through those texts.
not really. Yeah, I would say like you and I text more than she and I
We
do.
don't text.
Right.
We don't text. Yeah.
So it's like I said, it's definitely interesting. I have started working into my material on stage too, which is just kind of talking about that dating is hard, but I'm gonna start dating somebody, but like I feel like I have to end things because she's all these amazing things, but she's clearly like is interested in me, and that's obviously a red flag. Like that's if you're with all the shit that I am, like that, like that's how do you see me with everything that's the opposite of her and be interested in that? That's like self-sabotage there. That's a red flag. So obviously I gotta break up with that, but so I'm still working on a bit for that.
Okay.
Yes. And,
Well, after your next tabletop game, you'll have to give us the update of what you have to have the conversation with her of where things are going, I think, first and foremost. And then you can give us the update on everything else. You have to get it into your 2-hour time frame. You
Right,
know,
I know.
45 minutes in, you got
Set an agenda.
insert that
I
combo.
know.
Yeah.
It's not going to come just naturally.
Set an
So
agenda.
you'll see. I mean, you might, yeah, maybe that's the way to go.
Oh.
I appreciate the fact that she's very intentioned and she has like, she knows what she wants, but I also don't know necessarily that maybe she doesn't know what she wants. You know what I mean? Like maybe she's trying to do all these things to try to figure out what she wants, but she's going to lose some things in the meantime as well. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's been my life.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything else to say except for let's see what happens in a week.
Yeah, we are going to see what happens. And we are also going to go take a quick break. And when we come back, we have a voicemail from a listener. If you don't want to listen to the ads that are about to pop in, you can leave another voicemail for us by calling the DKS hotline at 407-519-0181. And we will be right back.
Like Adam said, we have a wonderful. Let me start that over. Like Adam said, we have a wonderful voicemail from a listener. And if you want to be on the show asking us your questions, comments, or concerns, you can call that DKS hotline at 407-519-0181. But let's get into this question.
Hi there. I just have a question that came from a conversation that I was having with my friend a couple weeks ago, just about what is the difference between love bombing and I guess just a woman being treated how they should be treated. Yeah, my friend was just like really excited about dating a new guy, and she was like, sorry. She was really excited about dating this new guy, and it really just seemed like, oh, she's treating me right, he's treating me like a queen, but it quickly turned into love bombing and totally fell apart. And it's just like, how do we catch that? What's the difference between the two? And then I guess another added part of this would, having conversation about a relationship I was going through, would be, what does even simping mean? Someone I was hanging out with, he was treating me really nicely and doing all these things for me, and a friend was like, oh yeah, he's a simp. So I guess, yeah, just what's the difference between love bombing, being treated well and right, and I guess and simping as well. Sorry if you guys have already talked about this at some point. I've been listening for quite a few years now, but maybe missed an episode. But yeah, love listening, and I'd rather not put my name on this if you guys do decide to use it on air or anything. But thank you. Sorry it's a little long.
So first off, thank you for taking the time to leave us the voicemail. We did actually a long time ago do an episode on love bombing when that was something that I was going through. And I just, it was like, what is this new experience? It feels kind of weird and wrong. And I'm having this gut reaction. And it turned out that it was love bombing. So I would say when you have that gut reaction or like a time where it feels a little icky, typically love bombing is a form of manipulation where a narcissist is using it to get what they want. So they are just flooding you with all these good things, and it'll feel a little off. Simping actually is a newer phrase that I'm technically not as familiar with. Maybe it's because I've never been called a simp, or that's just not something that like I've experienced a lot on the internet. But from what I saw online, it's more of like a one-sided thing where someone's really providing a lot of love and attention on the surface to one person, and the other person doesn't feel that way, according to definition. But I know, Adam, you're like, that's not what a simp is.
Well, yeah, I mean, so let's start love bombing. I'd say love bombing can be a narcissistic action. I would also say that love bombing can sometimes be an emotionally unintelligent guy who's interested in a woman, but he's interested in the woman that he's painted in his head of who she is, and so he sees her on a dating app or something like that and creates this world like in his head and then starts applying it to this real life person, telling them how beautiful they are, how amazing you are. Like, oh, I could just see this future with you. I can see you being my wife. I want to take you on trips. I want to do this thing, because they haven't even really gotten to know the person. They're just like, they are just bombing them with like all these compliments. And a lot of times it's not because they're trying to manipulate, because they're not even that fucking clever. Sometimes they're just incapable of realizing that you're a real human being. And what happens is then the woman succumbs and is like, okay, well, this person's really into me. And then they get to know who you are as a person. And then they're like, oh, you do these things I don't like. It's like, oh my God, you're a human being. And so then they stop with the compliments because now you're no longer in sync with this imaginary person they've painted in their head. And so that's how you know that it's love bombing a lot of times is, yes, it feels icky. And a lot of times it's coming from a place of someone who doesn't know you. And so you can say, oh, you love me, you're in love with me, or you think I'm amazing, you think I'm wonderful, what's my middle name? Like what's my favorite food? Ask, and they can't answer those things because it doesn't matter to them. They're just they want to try to capture you as they see you and make you and ideally mold you into this whatever. Like you are a princess in a castle, basically.
An object online.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way of putting it that I've never thought before. If they're so obsessed with the maybe dating version or the dating profile version of you and the pictures on there and that persona and what that would mean to their life with you in it, and they want that life for themselves, so they're bombing you to get
So that's what I would say. That's how you know it's love bombing. That genuine compliments have value to them. They have weight to them. They have impact to them. They're not like a million an hour. They're not. They're also not trying to dictate your life. And they will feel genuine. And yes, so simping is that interesting thing. It's a new term. It's only been around for a few years. And I'm sure it's I'm sure there's some type of origin that I'm not understanding where it came from immediately, but it's the only guys call other men simps whenever they do something nice for a woman or say anything nice about a woman or support a woman or support maybe a woman's point of view or go against what a man says or do anything where the guy calling the person a simp just has no capability to understand that someone might just have a differing opinion that happens to correlate with supporting women. So like anytime I do any content at all, I get called a simp. Anytime I talk about male privilege, simp is what they call it, because in their heads, the only reason I could possibly be talking about a thing that supports women, talking about male privilege, talking about
because you're trying to get your dick wet.
I'm trying to get my dick wet, and that's the only reason in their minds that I would ever say anything to support women, because that's the only reason they would ever support women. So they're so incapable of understanding other people have different motivations, and then so they just project completely and call me a simp. So when the fact that you had a guy who was nice to you and was treating you right, and someone said, "Oh, he's just a simp," that person's being a shitty person is what they are.
Are you assuming that guy is a guy who said that? Because I don't feel like
women do use it too.
Yeah.
Younger generation women use it. And it's it's like an internalized misogyny is what it is, I think. But it's mostly emotionally immature, like crusty ass dudes who just cannot handle the fact that anybody would support a woman. That's just really, really what it boils down to.
But women aren't calling other women simps. It's more of okay.
Yeah, women are. Yeah, it's very rarely, and now it's started to become more of a global term now, where someone's like, "Oh, I'm simping for them. I'm simping for this. I'm saying like," where anytime like you're like really into something, or you're.
I get that reference, but like if someone was simping towards me, I just see it as like someone's giving me attention and affection where I don't necessarily want it. But I guess like on the internet, it's kind of.
See, that's not really simping though. That's kind of just like because it's not even an unwanted attention as much. It's like if you posted something online and someone attacked you and someone else stepped in there and just said, "That's shitty of you to say that," or something like that.
That'd be simping.
That'd be called being a simp or a white knight.
Jesus
in that case
Christ.
Too, but it's also can be
is that interchangeable, white knight and simp?
In that occasion it might be. But
what the fuck is white knight? Oh my God.
White knighting is just when you come in when someone hasn't asked you to come to anybody's defense.
Okay.
And sometimes it's not healthy to do that. White knighting has like sometimes if you assume a woman can't defend herself and you step in, then you're being just as misogynistic as the person who's doing it, is attacking her because you're assuming she doesn't know how to defend herself as well. So there's a difference, and that is kind of a fine line. But simping is just this broad description of any time a guy says or does anything nice for a woman, supports a woman, thinks about a woman in a positive way, does anything, then this group of just like shitty, dumbass dudes who's like, oh, he's a simp, because all they want to do is jerk each other off. And you know, like they're so into,
I don't get it though.
they're so into impressing other men. That's all their whole lives are, because they don't understand that they probably are attracted to other men. Is really what I think it boils down to. They just haven't figured that out. So they're so into impressing other men that all they can think about is just like, why would you say anything nice about a woman? You know, that those are our things. Those are our objects. Why are you going to be nice to an object?
But if a man is in a relationship with a woman, would his, like, if Roy and I are together, if his friend said, oh, you're a simp for Sarah, like,
yeah,
a simp for me because he respects me and cares about my opinions and does affectionate things towards me.
It's if you're in a relationship with someone, and it's essentially the equivalent of being pussy whipped.
What the fuck? So anything that has to do with women, you're just a simp, or you're pussy whipped, or you're
So it's kind of an overall term. So it can mean white knighting, it can mean pussy whipped, it can mean you know, like you just kiss ass, like, you know, like if you know, Roy was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna bring you flowers after I get back from my flight because I haven't seen you, they'll be like, oh, so what a simp, because they don't understand doing things and being nice to people without trying to get something in return. They don't understand that sometimes you just do that.
But a woman wouldn't say, don't be a simp for me. Like, she wouldn't tell her boyfriend, oh, you're being a simp, or her girlfriends wouldn't say, oh, what a simp.
If she if she does, that'd be really shitty of her. That's
fair. Yes. Yeah.
I feel like that's her being toxic. That's a lot of internalized misogyny too. That like, you know, so it's a
weird. They just want to be with each other. Just let them be. Let men be. I don't know why they're so against gay marriage then.
I know.
That's really what they want.
They just want to fuck each other. But yeah. So anyways, whoever it is that called your friend, you know, the guy who was simp that was being nice to you, like, he was treating you nice and you actually hang out. So it sounds like you might have been like potentially dating. You know, if he had ulterior motives, I don't know anything about that, but he's not necessarily a simp just because he's nice to you. Like, that doesn't mean anything. And people should probably stop using the fucking term.
Yeah, I don't really like it.
Yeah. Now, I will simp for you if you call our hotline and leave a voicemail at 407-519-0181. So you know, I guess it
that was good.
Works in that term. You know.
Will simp for you.
Will simp for you. So yeah, so you know, that's maybe the only time that it's okay. But that's thank you for calling, and everyone else, please feel free to call or email us at datingkindasuckspodcast@gmail.com. And we're gonna take our next break.
Last break. Yep.
Get back to the topic. Finally.
I know we said we were taking a break, and we were taking a nice long break, and then this idea popped up, all from a TikTok. It's always from a TikTok.
Always from a TikTok. Yep.
This guy took to social media and started talking about how he's looking for a quote unquote real woman, and he said, in quotes, girls aren't the way they used to be. Not like how they were in the 1800s and early 1900s. A real woman. She grows up. She really wants to get married, have kids. Her favorite thing is cooking and cleaning, and wants to be married so much she dreams about it. Girls aren't allowed to be like that in today's world, and society forces them to be workers. Men want a good woman. Stop going to bars, stop getting drunk, take care of yourself, and be a good woman. So with that lovely little TikTok that he released out on the internet, and a lot of people were, you know, stitching and making comments about, it just brought up the question of what actually makes a good woman in today's standards. And should we actually go back to the 1800s to look for that fucking answer?
Right. And of course, this guy was exactly the level of physical specimen that you would expect of a man demanding ridiculous standards for a woman.
He looks like what you would think he would look like.
Yes. He looks like a just twice dehydrated potato with hair.
Accurate.
Yeah.
He said he was looking towards the church, and he's 27, but he definitely looks like
he's 27.
He starts off.
Oh my God,
27
I thought he was like 45. Like that.
He looks, and like late 30s.
What is it about like hating women that ages you so tremendously? Like, if you look at all of the like Charlie Kirk and Ben, like all these people who despise women, like they all look so old. There's this one guy on Twitter who posts his name's like Richard Hanarian, I think. And he's like, and this is how his voice sounds in my head. I am 18 years old. I am an alpha male. Women respect me. I have money. I have an education, and like whatever. But his face, and that's the only way I can imagine his voice. His face is like this little scrunched up, like pencil eraser face that like you look at and you're like, this guy looks 60 already. I can only imagine that he's only going to worse. So, anyways, let's just get that away. Like look in the fucking mirror before you try to decide who you're going to be judgy about anything. That's step number one.
Step number one. And then step number two is before asking if like, why can't I find a good woman? You should be looking in and going, how can I be a good man or a better man or a respectful man or anything better than what you currently are?
Yeah. Cause you don't deserve a good woman. You don't deserve a woman. You don't deserve like a wet watermelon with a hole in it. Like you don't deserve any of those things. Christ. So
yeah, that got me.
let's I mean, I just want to go to his statement too. Not like how they were in the 1800s and early 1900s. So first of all, you're still laughing at the watermelon.
I can't. I just visualized it. That's all. Just fucking a watermelon. That's a new one.
So let's look at what women were like in the 1800s and early, not what the Victorian standards were, but like what the women were like. They couldn't own property.
Yeah.
They obviously didn't have any bodily autonomy. There was no such thing as birth control for most of that.
They couldn't go to school.
They couldn't go to school for a lot of that period, and they couldn't have a credit card or a bank account in their own name. So he's like, I wish that I just had someone who had to stay at home, couldn't get a job or do anything because they didn't have any skills or education to do so, couldn't escape me, and like to cook. I want them to at least love cooking and cleaning, because I mean it's the only thing they can fucking do for me. So the amount of that, I want them to enjoy that, and just want them to put their body through the physical harm of having children over and over again, just to feed my ego and my desire.
That's the least they could do.
That's the least they could do. And yeah, and so that's
well, it goes back to what women's bodies back then were quote unquote made for.
Yep. Yeah.
Was just to reproduce and to be a whole.
Yes, just breeding.
Men. Yeah.
And
be a maid and breeding. Yeah.
Maid, breeding, and even back then, not as much a sex toy. Not the ones you married. The women you didn't marry were the sex toys. What was it? There was like an old I feel like one of the mafia shows or something, like was maybe like Sopranos or something, where he it's something like his girlfriend gives him blowjobs because he kisses his wife or something like that. Like it's something along those lines. And like I feel like that's very indicative of men. Like this is like
it's a formal love in the 1800s versus a more pornographic love as times have changed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like yes, that was back then, but just to not grasp the concept of progress and how it's better now for everybody involved versus looking at it and going, well, this would really benefit me a lot because I really just want a mom.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you just like, I really want a mommy to take care of me. Like I want someone to do all my laundry because I don't want to have to do any of it. I don't want to have to do any chores or any work around the house. And I really just want somebody to feed me and do all these things for me. And I can call her my wife, but really it's just a mom. And they were honest about that. Great. I'm sure there's services that provide that.
Yeah. Well, and then his whole thing of like, stop going to bars, stop drinking. It makes me flip the question. Okay. So when's the last time you've been to a bar?
Yeah.
When's the last time you've had a drink? If your expectations of your future partner are that they don't do X, Y, and Z things, it's assumed that you also don't do those things, because if you do those things, you're a fucking hypocrite and you can't be judging them on anything that they do or don't do.
Right. Not that hypocrisy has ever stopped them, but
fair. Yes.
Right,
yeah.
but,
yeah.
And like men want a good woman. No, I mean, listen, I want a bad girl. I don't want a good woman. What are you talking about? Like you can't speak for all men.
And maybe this is just me being like anti-church and like anti-religion to a degree, but just saying, you know, I'm looking for someone who's in the church who has all these values that upholds this traditional standard. It just makes me want to fucking vomit. And I'm like, do you understand? Like, I don't know what percentage of women who are still attending church are like, yeah, I really actually want to meet a good man in the church who respects me, because I think the amount of men who go who are respectful of women is probably a very low fucking percentage rate.
Yeah, I have noticed here in Tulsa that there are a lot of matches that are like looking for a man who knows that Jesus is his Lord and things like that in their profiles. So there are women who, like, you know, the church means a lot to them, and I wonder why that is. I mean, because I feel like the church has never really served women well.
I agree. It's a little bit of brainwashing to a degree if we really want to dive into religion this episode, but
Well,
like, I have no problem with God, but like there's a level of like oppression that the church has instilled that for some reason we still want to uphold because it's the church and that's what God and Jesus wanted for us. And I'm like, okay, like, you're fucking Sky Daddy once again with your rules and procedures.
It's yeah, and it's patriarchal, and it benefits men significantly, and men don't get punished when they should. There was that pastor that was that like 2 months ago, who said his wife lost her life. But I know you're talking about, her name was like Mina something. And
fuck yeah, I do know what you're talking about. Yep. Okay.
And everybody's like, he murdered her. Like, he quite 100%. Clearly 100% murdered her. And it's like the fact that like, I hope I mean, they said they're going to open an investigation, but like the church was all supportive of him and stuff like that. And there was
his fucking church, of course.
Yeah. And then there was this other church where the pastor got there's a new story came out about him having inappropriate relations with someone years ago. And so the thing is, at first he put out a statement that actually I was like kind of behind, because he was like, I did something I wasn't entirely proud of years ago. I've since, like, you know, I've made effort, and I've never had that happen again, and I've, you know, whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, at least he was willing to acknowledge it, blah blah. But then it came out that no, she was 12.
Yeah.
You know, and like he glossed over that part of it, you know, like he glossed over that part. And the church was, and these church attendees, women, there was a quote from a woman who was like, well, you know, girls sometimes they just, you know, you can't help
girls
how they
are
look.
Little
Like,
sluts.
yeah, essentially, like somehow blaming, you know, young girls for this. And so I think people like that who go to church too, like they're the absolute worst.
But then you have the people in the dating profiles in Tulsa saying like, oh, that's just one bad apple.
Right.
You know,
and the thing is, like, if I were to match with
but
them and say, yeah, I don't go to church, that would be like a red flag. But the guy that you know, that goes to church, but then does all these other things or believes all these other things is somehow is godly. Yeah, I don't think so.
Because you want me barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen cleaning up your shit because that makes me a good woman. It's just such bullshit.
And we definitely are not going to get on this tangent, but I'm going to mention
we're already on a tangent.
I'm going to mention it. The victim at the rally who got so when Trump got missed.
Oh yeah.
The guy who got killed behind him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You hear what happened?
I'm not as caught up as you are.
Okay.
I know he made some shitty tweet.
Oh no,
like,
no. The guy was.
back.
I mean, the guy himself is a piece of shit. Like, he absolutely was just terrible. But no, President Biden tried to call the widow to give his condolences, and she wouldn't answer the phone.
Okay.
Because she knows her husband wouldn't want her to talk to Joe Biden.
I fucking can't. Okay.
And said that, you know, said, you know, but, you know, she was there and she was, you know, glad that she could bring their family there because she and her family are devout Republicans, which you don't.
What the fuck is that even mean?
Devout Republicans.
That's devout Christians,
right.
Not devout Republicans. Again, the religion and
she wouldn't answer the phone. The president of the United States, like, honestly, I'll tell you what, even as much as I despise Trump, when he was president, if something happened and I got a call from him, I still would answer the fucking phone. Like, it's just like, it's still the president calling, regardless of anything else. A president from any country would call me, I'd answer the phone. You know, like, the fact that she wouldn't talk to him because of that is just because her husband wouldn't want her to. Her dead husband wouldn't want her to. Do you know who hasn't called him or called her or gone to the hospital or in any way made contact with her whatsoever? Trump. So,
no surprise there.
yeah,
I
but
mean,
anyway, so that's just like the idea of the woman of like this woman in the church is the same type of concept. Like just like it's an internalized misogyny, internalized self-hatred that I think happens a lot with religion, with women. And we really got off on this tangent.
yeah, no. And going back
let's
to the
get back.
perfect woman, there's a level of like, do what you want to do, right? Like if you are a woman in society and you want to look for a partner who is going to provide for you and help, you know, the family elements of the home and things like that, and is godly or whatever, that's totally cool, but not in a fucking oppressive way. That's the only thing they're looking for in that relationship, is that you're cleaning, cooking, and caring for kids. There has to be something more than that. Like you guys can have a mutual agreement that these are things that we're both okay with because that's the stage of life that we're in. Because let's be for fucking real, it's not always going to be that way. The kids are going to grow up. You might have other interests or hobbies in the future, and that dynamic might shift. So for the time being, that could be cool that that's the agreement, but you have to give your partner grace to be able to grow and change along with you, because you're not going to be the same person at the start either, or at the end from the start. You know what I mean?
Well, and so that's the thing, is that I don't think there's anything wrong with someone getting married and telling their spouse, either whoever their spouse is, I don't want you to have to work. I make enough money. You don't need to work. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's 100% fine. I don't think it's then okay for them to expect them to be to do all of the house chores. The house chores are still a separate thing. It's still a separate, entirely separate thing. Having children and raising the children and maintaining the house, those are
two jobs.
Yeah, those
two
are
different
two
jobs.
different jobs. Exactly. And then if the relationship were to end, being mad that they want alimony to make sure that they have support to keep them in the same financial position that they had before, because they don't have any like quote unquote marketable skills to go get a job in the market. And so like that, it's that mentality that like, I want to be your provider. And they usually say protector too, but that's a whole other story. But I want to be your provider, but only as long as you're with me. And then, but God, if you decide ever that you're going to leave me, or, no matter how shitty I am, no matter how abusive I am, whatever, or if we just fall out of love and the relationships, it can't be fixed. I'm no longer going to provide for you, and I'm not going to try to help you learn how to provide for yourself. And so that's obviously what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who just wants to be a slave, be okay with being a slave, and never ask for divorce. There's so many men out there that say that no fault divorce was a huge mistake.
And then it goes back to the whole conversation we've had a million years ago of just men not even fucking liking women. They just want, I think a lot of it is tied to the status of being someone that is good looking in their eyes, more than it's like having a woman around their arm is really just what they want. I don't even know if it's necessarily the sex or whatever. It's just being perceived as being successful because they were able to bag that girl, whoever she might be.
Yeah.
Whether she has the qualities he actually wants or not. It's just, she was the first available person who met all of these like really stupid criteria that I had, and I'm fine with it. It's not going to last, but
yeah,
it's fine.
It's going to last because I'm going to make it last. I'm not going to let her leave and things like that.
That's the foundation for a healthy fucking relationship. Well, for sure.
I think the funny thing to do to show how ridiculous the standards are too is to look at someone like you. So, according to his standards, you are not a good woman. Now you don't drink.
I'm a fucking little slut.
I'm saying you don't go to bars. You don't drink. You don't. You're not a heavy partier. You're not. You have a job that pays the bills. You clean around the house when you need to, but you're not like, you don't do Roy's laundry. You don't, and you guys switch off cooking. Like you each cook, but Roy cooks a lot too. And so like by his standards, you are not a good woman because you are independent, because you go off and travel by yourself. That actually, makes you an evil, vile woman, because how dare you travel by yourself? Because if you're traveling by yourself, it means you're out there fucking everybody, because that's what he would do. That's what the guy would do if he was out there traveling, basically.
Should I wish I was fucking everybody? Just kidding. No, that's a good point. But yes, I'm not a good woman in his eyes, but we don't value the same things in a relationship where I actually value a real partnership. He's valuing a prize.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the fundamental difference, I think, on how most men and most women view like dating and relationships.
Yeah.
Is that I think we talked about this before, but I think that women have a set of it's you know what it is, you know what it's like, and this is my comparison. Men have this idea that it's like a job search, but where men say, well, you have to have a degree from this school, you have to have done these 3 things, you have to have clerked for this person and worked for this type of person, and you have to have closed these types of deals, X, Y, and Z. And a woman looks at it and says, okay, well, we want soft skills. We want to make sure that you're collaborative. We want to make sure that you know how to be a team player, that you're an effective leader, that you're inclusive, and that your staff feels comfortable working for you. And I feel like that's maybe how men and women appreciate dating too, or approach dating, is that men say, well, she has to have this, this body, be this tall or this short, this skinny, with look like this and do these things. And women are like, I want somebody who's not going to abuse me, who's doesn't have to be brilliant, is just relatively intelligent, has like basic critical thinking skills, has some emotional intelligence, has the ability to make me laugh, and is someone that I enjoy spending my time with. And then he's like, I want somebody that I can fuck and then show off to my friends and say I fuck her.
Yeah,
and she
exactly.
she cleans for me and wipes my ass and cooks and cleans and everything too.
She's my mommy. Yeah, and I think you're spot on with that. Of like, women are able to be a little bit more flexible with the requirements because it is more of a soft skill requirement versus a specific one ask of this thing. And if you've done it, great. If you haven't, you're out, versus, I'm willing to work with this because it falls into the criteria that I'm looking for. And I think going back to building the perfect woman, a lot of women would probably say, I am, in my mind, the perfect woman because I'm not looking for a man who wants those things, whatever those things are. I'm a fully functional or like fully
realized,
well-rounded, I think. Yeah. I'm a well-rounded individual, not just a woman, but a individual who can do all of these things, can take care of myself, be independent, make my money, go do trips, do whatever I want to do and be happy, have a good network of friends. And that makes me a good person and a good woman and, eventually a good partner. And men looking from the outside in are going, well, cool that you have all those things, but you still don't cook and clean for me.
Right.
So, like it doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, well then I don't want to date you because you don't
Great
see
for you that you have a happy life, that you're fully, that you're fulfilled and all those things. But I really want you to make me a fucking sandwich, bitch. Like that's the mentality.
Yeah.
And
it's sad too, because like, I mean, obviously these guys are incels and they suck, right? But they're missing the potential right in front of them. I'm like, wow, look at all these great qualities this person has. And I'm missing the fucking point because they're making more money than me, or, whatever the case may be, that it's hurting my ego and it's not fulfilling my manly needs of what I want. So I don't want to be with you because you're outspoken and you can't be, it goes back to a level of control where I can't control you and oppress you to a degree. So I'm not interested.
And they will argue, these men will also argue, well, women say they want someone tall. That's like their big argument. Or they have the 666 rule, which we talked about too.
Yes.
But and we've debunked that women will say, oh, like they might have a preference for someone who's tall, but if they found a short guy who was kind and compassionate and was a equal partner, the height doesn't matter. And women have said that time and time again. And I think that's the thing to look at too, is that once again, women are looking for someone they enjoy spending time with. Men are looking for someone that they can show off to their male friends, and or in some way just absolves them of any responsibility at home. And one aspect of what he says in this too that I wanted to bring up that girls aren't allowed to be like that in today's world. It's society forces them to be workers. Well, first of all, let's not talk about, capitalism and the patriarchal nature of that and all that. But yeah, it'd be great if society didn't, but I guarantee this guy is voting for people who don't want to have a basic universal income, like universal basic daily income, which would resolve a lot of that. He doesn't want that, I'm sure. But also, these guys are so anti-feminist. They think feminism is bad, and a lot of women I've heard too. Oh yeah, I'm not a feminist because that's just that's so crazy. Feminism isn't saying
What's crazy?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Feminism isn't saying that you have to work a job and you can't date anybody and you can't get married and you can't have kids and you can't be a house cleaner or a housekeeper. I mean, it doesn't or a homemaker. It doesn't say that. Feminism says give women the choice to decide whatever they want to do.
Exactly.
End of story.
Yep.
And so if a woman chooses that's what she wants to do, that's great. If that's, especially if she's making an actually informed, aware decision of that, not blindly going because men are telling her that's what she has to be. And that's 100% fine. And I think that these men are just so terrified of understanding that when most women have the choice, they're going to choose independence first over being a homemaker. They're going to choose the ability to take
their
care
own
of themselves.
happiness over their partners or future partners by cleaning up their shit.
And their ability to escape if they want to, and all of that as well, which I think is a big part of this, is they're choosing, their ability to do what they want to do. And then if that is have a child, they can have a child, but that's not their first choice because then they get trapped in a home where they can't escape or, they're being abused, etc.
Yeah. So the perfect woman has the independence, has the self-confidence, and just knows themselves before getting into bed with someone who could be a good match or even considering an incel. So
right.
But that's the problem though. The actual perfect woman nowadays is so self-aware of who they are and where they're going in life. And men aren't, like, those men haven't even caught up to that fact yet at all. They're just going, well, why are things different than they were in the 1950s when my parents were getting married or whatever, probably being conceived at that point, like not getting married. So I don't have any words for them except for wake the fuck up or get used to being single and alone or start being into other men like you.
Yeah, exactly. Being into other men. So if I were to say, what is the perfect woman? The perfect woman is a fully realized individual, is a woman who does what she wants to do, knows what she wants out of life, enjoys life, is able to, participate in anything she wants and doesn't need a man, but chooses to be with someone who adds to her life. Like she's a whole person who is looking for another whole person who enhances her life, not a half of a person who needs her other half in order to survive. And that's what a perfect woman would be. Like you said, that perfect woman is never going to be the type of woman that these neckbeard pieces of shit are ever going to find, because they don't want that. They don't want someone who's a whole individual. They don't want someone who's fully realized. They don't want someone who's independent and happy. They want someone who's desperate and scared to be alone.
Well, think about this too. And sorry to go back to the church thing. Maybe I'm just hating on religion today, but they are searching for women. These shit men are searching for women in a place where they could probably be already oppressed.
Yep.
The church.
Yeah.
The bar. I don't think the bar, independent women are going to a bar and dancing and being free or doing whatever, or they're going out drinking and being themselves. I don't think there's a level of oppression there at the bars versus looking inward towards the church and handpicking people who are like, they're not that self-confident and they seem a little unsure of this and that about themselves. So they seem, I could work with that because they've already been molded into something that fits for me. So they're sticking to environments that might have those types of women, which is unfortunate, but at the same time, that's why they can't find anyone outside of the church or outside of whatever circle they run in, because they don't exist outside of those circles, because all the independent women are doing their own thing in the real fucking world.
Yeah. Yep. That's right.
Not to hate on you if you go to church, but there's There's a level of church people that are just fucking helpless.
I hear a lot of people who say they go to church for the community and things like that, and I can understand that. But then I
Yeah.
think people then find out that if they do anything that's the slightest bit wrong, slightest bit against anything that the pastor or minister or any, you know, or whatever says is acceptable, then they immediately find out how cold that community can be. I mean, there's been so many instances of teenage girls being assaulted, and when they try to tell the church community about it, the community turns on them instead of turning on the person doing it. So yeah, so perfect woman is a woman that these men will never touch or get near, or and that's pretty fucking perfect in my mind. That's like perfect ending for them too.
Yeah,
Because it just let's address men like who think like this. Not that you've made it through this whole episode, because I know you probably turn it off by now, but if you are a man who thinks like that guy, what you should be working on, instead of trying to craft the perfect woman and complain about how women are today, is try to make yourself a better person. Try to turn yourself into an individual who is whole and doesn't need someone, who knows how to cook and clean and maintain your own household, someone who feels like a fully fledged adult. And if you reach that point in your own life, you might realize that you don't want someone to do those things for you. You want someone else who's also an equal partner. And that would make your life a lot easier too.
what a concept. Yeah.
I know.
Well, if you have any thoughts about anything we said today, especially with the religion, and you want to sound off because you hate us about that, or you hate us about us talking negatively towards men once again, because that's that tends to be the summary of every episode, is like, some men are shit.
Right.
You can call our DKS hotline and bitch us out at 407-519-0181, and then we'll play it on air, and then we'll just, let that air out.
Yeah,
You
we'll
never know.
listen. You can, if you do leave a voicemail, if you're a guy and you leave a voicemail, we will get to it. We will play it, and we have in the past. We're not gonna say no to that, so that's okay. You can also
That
email
is
us
true.
too
Yeah.
at datingkindofsuckspodcast@gmail.com. If you're respectful, you can join our Facebook group. That's actually a little more regulated. But that's at facebook.com/groups/DKS Podcast.
And for as little as $5 a month, you can become a patron on Patreon at patreon.com/DKS Podcast, with exclusive after the episode videos and just us being even more real
Yes,
in another way.
a little bit more real. We try to post on there after most episodes. And even if we don't, there's literally, I would say, hours of footage, because there's also,
Oh my God, yeah.
like you can go back to the archives. There was I think an hour and a half conversation with me and a couple of different exes and stuff as well.
Oh,
If you
yeah,
remember,
yeah.
those are on there, and those aren't available
Mhm.
anywhere else. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on there. If you are listening to this, you can also join us on YouTube, youtube.com/datingkindofsucks, our Instagram at datingkindofsucks, and of course we have our own individual Instagrams and TikToks, simply Sarah G_, and I'm at Adam Heath on TikTok.
Of course, if you've made it this far and you've been listening for a while and haven't given us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, now is the time, as well as following us on Spotify. And share it with your friends. If you know a shitty man who thinks this way, who probably won't get to this part of the episode, I mean, you can share it and see what he says.
Tag him anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that, we'll be back sometime after the Olympics with another episode, once Sarah gets back and settled and is ready to talk about whatever happened in Paris, because we know it's going to be quite
what happens in Paris doesn't.
I know, that's right. It doesn't stay in Paris. It's going to go on air, but we'll be back with a new episode at that point.
Until next time.
Whether you're married or single or poly or ace, or hanging out with swingers back at your place, listen to us as we get no luck on Tinder and Bumble and plenty of yuck, trying and having no luck, because we all know dating kinda sucks. Sarah and Adam are two of a kind. He says stupid shit and she doesn't mind. They're not doing this show to make any buck. Life as a chicken whose feathers they pluck. Why does it work? Well, here is the crux. They both know dating kinda sucks. Dating kinda sucks.